everyone, and it's quite strange to be sitting down and talking to you. I think that's the first time this has happened, so really excited to be here this morning and share the stage here with Mark and Gautam. I'll let Mark and Gautam introduce themselves. I'll do a much better job of that than I will, so quick introduction there, guys.
Yeah,
our time is ticking.
Time's ticking. I think we're against the clock already. First of all, we're sitting down. It's got nothing to do with our age, and that's not a deep fake. That is actually me, but about 8 years ago. So I'm working on getting that changed. But no, jokes aside, Mark Harvey, one of the co-founders and CEO of Sekura ID. We work with MNOs across the world, helping them expose their data in a compliant way. I'm very excited to be here talking to you all today.
Right, yeah.
And I'm Gautam Hazari. I'm the co-founder and CTO for Sekura ID. Have been working in the identity industry for very long. Wrote the first profile, which was later known as Mobile Connect, and now has led to what is known as the Open Gateway or Kamar APIs. So,
terrific.
So it's his fault.
It's his fault. It's your fault. A little bit of an introduction, and then we're going to jump into some Q&A. So I'm going to spend time asking the guys some questions and getting the lowdown on Sekura's role in the market and activities. But I'd like to say, first of all, David, I haven't forgotten yet what was said, and just draw on some of the comments there. I think from a telecom industry perspective, we play a vital role in fighting fraud, cybercrime, identity theft. We are an integral part as an industry of fighting that type of fraud, and our data, handsets, all of these things are critical globally to doing that. But to create a holistic solution, I echo David's comments, we need to do that together. We need to work together to be able to create something that's effective. And in saying that, at NetNumber, I learned something else this morning. We're also turning 25 this year. So we started in November 1999, so sharing a birthday here with Bandwidth and with MEF. So that's terrific. And for that entire time, we've been building and delivering real-time global number intelligence solutions to a global market, and particularly here in North America. So not only the data services, but we're also the authoritative registry for text-enabling non-mobile 10-digit numbers, and have been doing that for over 15 years. So we play a critical role in the industry globally, but also here in North America with regard to messaging. And many of you in the room are customers and partners of ours, so we say thank you. But to take that a step further, I think a couple of the products that we've just announced over the last several months, our dynamic D&O product, our fraud prevention registry product, both of those capabilities are things that I would describe as industry inclusive. They're not products that can stand alone, just something that NetNumber does on its own. And we're working with, as an example, we've got many partners. Two of the partners I would call out for those services are WMC Global for bank fraud data that we're getting as part of that, part of those solutions, and also ITG. So these industry inclusive solutions really do require us to work together, and maybe in a very different way as we see fraud change over time. And what's great about Sekura, over the last 5 or 6 years, the Sekura team have built a best-in-class global mobile identity platform that covers 2.5 billion humans across the globe. So over the next 20-25 minutes, we're going to spend talking about Sekura and NetNumber and some of the game-changing innovation that we're bringing to market together. So whoever has control of the slides, I don't have the clicker. Can we just jump forward one slide? Thank you. So guys, I'll start off with a question here. So new services and new technologies like AI expand the attack surface and provide a launch pad for new types of fraud. How are you guys seeing organisations globally address that issue?
I can take that. So maybe before going to how organization is tackling it, maybe let's go back to where fraud is right now in the industry. One of the things that we don't realize is fraud is one of the oldest business existing, right? When I say old, it's really old. The first fraud ever recorded in history was in 300 BC. That was an insurance fraud by a shipping company in Greece. And the modality of the fraud hasn't changed, even in the AI. It has become more accelerated, but it's a very similar, let's say, business, because the fraudsters are doing business, right? And with the evolution of AI, especially with the commoditization of large language model, it has gone to a level which is not just scary. It's I don't think I have a word for that. So maybe let's see where very simplistic, let's say, phishing frauds, right? Where it is right now as we see it. Okay, then we can come back what the organizations are doing or can do, or what we are doing as well, right? So in the earlier days, when we used to receive a phishing message, doesn't matter which channel, whether it's an email or an SMS, you will see that message and you will see, it's fraud. This is from a fraudster, right? Because the language will be awful, there will be spelling mistakes, and you will say, this must be, the fraudster. But then something happened, right? We had ChatGPT. Even before that, there were large language models. Open sources were available as well. So now these fraudsters are using these large language models to create those phishing messages, right? So they become much, much more accurate. It's not just accurate from language perspective. There are no spelling mistakes as well, right? And this is not just theory. There is a paper that's published by, I believe, University of Texas. Last year, I think in June, they published it. And then the title of that paper is How to Do Phishing Using ChatGPT. And it gives a script how you actually can do that, right? But it doesn't just stop there. So the phishing messages are not just accurate from spelling and language perspective. What these fraudsters are doing is they're fine-tuning these large language models with our own content, which we are proud to publicize in our social media or publicly say it, right? So then what happens is the outcome of this fine-tuned large language model is not just accurate, they become very personal as well. So if I receive a message that actually, that starts with something that I always see from my friend, from my family, it will look very, very personal, right? And it doesn't stop there. So we know that there are many viral contents that goes on the internet, right? Viral TikTok videos, viral text, viral blogs, viral articles, viral books. There is a reason some content is viral, some content is not. And again, I'm not a neuroscientist. I was in a conference. There was a neuroscientist there. I was speaking to him. He asked me this question. Why do you think some content are viral, some content are not? I said, I have no idea. Then he said that what happens is, and I don't know how, if you consume those content, let's say if it is an article or a book, if we consume those, apparently in our blood, the level of dopamine, oxytocin, all those nice neurochemicals, they increase, right? How does that happen? Again, that's not for this, right? That's for the neuroscientists, but that's why they become viral. So what's happening now is these fraudsters are fine-tuning this large language model with this viral content. So what does that mean? Now these, let's say, phishing messages, whatever we call those, from the fraudsters, they are not just accurate, they are not just personal, they will make us emotional. Because you read those, and in our blood, dopamine, oxytocin, all those nice neurochemicals, they increase. So we become, more emotional. So in that case, what happens is, and I got very, very interested because we have fraud fighters. I did a bit of research and then published an article in Forbes. Basically what happens is, as you know, we have two part of the brain, right? One is the logical brain, the frontal lobe, or the prefrontal cortex, which is logical, which processes information through logic. Then, for our own survival, we have the amygdala, which is not logical. It just reacts quickly, right? So what these guys are doing is, using the large language model, using this viral content or our personal content, it is actually triggering and hijacking our amygdala. It's called amygdala hijack. It's not a term that I have coined. That's been there by the psychologists for long. So in that case, none of us are actually protected. And I am saying this thing with extreme seriousness because one of our colleagues, who is a fraud fighter, he was a victim of that. He knew what's going on. He's creating services, selling services for that, but then he was a victim of where the amygdala hijack got triggered, and he was emotional and paid for something, not a lot, but paid for something that was from the fraudster. And then the interesting thing is, he did it twice, right? First time he did, he was very embarrassed. He called me. I spoke to him, don't worry, because no one is protected. He said, yeah, I understand. 2 months later, he did that again. Exact same model, right? Because the content was, bypassing his logical brain. So anyways, that's where the fraud is. And this is just one of the examples. There are a lot more happening there. So, and then what is the impact here, right, for the businesses? So for example, I come from UK. In UK, Guardian published a report where it says that every 12 seconds, one UK citizen or resident is getting impacted by a fraud. And again, it's no surprise, right? Using all these open source large language model. And globally, the cost for fraud management right now is 6% of the global GDP. And that's supermassive, right? So that's where and it's impacting the businesses and the users as well, from fraud perspective.
Yeah. Amazing. And we could, that's fascinating, that the impact of AI, and I feel like we could be talking about that here for the whole half hour.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. So Mark, how would you, it's a great opportunity here and great timing to be able to talk about our partnership. How would you characterise our partnership for the audience?
So it feels like a little bit of a counselling session, actually, with David.
Is that for me, or?
No, but David starting off earlier, and it goes to show I was listening. But when we started off, and I think we've seen this in the industry as well, you want to do something on your own. You think you're big enough, brave enough, got deeper pockets, etc. And we went on a little bit of a land grab, okay? And I think there's other people as well in the industry that would probably say the same. And you get to that point and realise actually how big the problem is, right? It's not just a US problem, it's not a UK problem, it is actually a global problem. And really over the last kind of 18 months, it really dawned upon us that the collaboration is key. And strangely enough, it's something that I've been talking about since my GSMA days, right? But didn't listen to my own advice. And there's people in the audience, when I look around today, we've got, similar to yourself, partners out there. But with yourselves, I think the innovation that we're seeing coming out of NetNumber today, your number intelligence registry service and so on and so forth, as we go around the world, we're seeing more governments, more telcos want to get involved in that type of stuff. So we know what we're good at, and we're going to keep to our swim lane. And basically, as I say, partnership with NetNumber going forward, we're super excited about. Some of the customers that we've now spoken to collectively, the feedback's been really, really good. So yeah, the future's looking very bright, I think. But just because we're partnered with you, it doesn't mean we can't be partnered with you, right? And it's that collaboration that I think is key. The fraudsters are clever. There's a lot of them out there. And coming together, it's our job to stop them. So superheroes that don't wear capes, right? That's the message.
There you go. Yeah. So maybe for Gautam, just continuing on that same theme and going a step further. Both of our businesses work internationally and maybe in different markets a little, but now coming together more. How are you seeing the market evolve and customers evolve from your perspective?
Yeah, so the common theme between us is mobile, right? And across this room as well. And that's where the solution, because I was more talking about the problem first, right? That's where the solution exists as well. And it's not just us who are saying it, right? It's the hyperscalers. So, for example, Apple and Google has been talking about, okay, the solution to all these, let's say, fraud mitigation is in cryptography, right? And that's why passkeys have been pushed, and that's great. The important thing is that solution has been existing in this space since 1991. So, in the form of a SIM. So the cryptographic authentication, cryptographic identity process has been there in the SIM since it's been, it's been presented to the industry in 1991. I was actually tempted to say from 300 BC. And that probably is a coincidence. The reason is, we're talking about cryptography, not just us, Apple and Google. Cryptography, I'm sure technical friends will know that majority of the cryptography is based on prime numbers. And interestingly, prime numbers were presented by Euclid in 300 BC. So I don't know, it's a strange coincidence, right? First fraud in 300 BC, the solution was almost invented in 300 BC. Anyways, so the solution lies in the mobile ecosystem. For the reason as well is majority of the digital services are consumed through mobile as well, right? And the mobile number is critical as well. And there is enough amount of what we call invaluable signals exist within the mobile operators. Like some of those we see there, and some of those are promoted by GSMA as part of the Open Gateway initiative as well. These actually provide the solution. All hinge towards the mobile number and SIM as an asset. And again, this is not just, we are saying because we are from this community. Again, there is a paper that was published by MIT, and that's a bit old. It was in 2013. And the title of the paper, you can Google it. It's called Unique in the Crowd. It compares two different, let's say, data sources for where, how do you identify a human being? And it compares biometrics, primarily fingerprint biometrics, and mobile data signals, like some of those that we are seeing here, right? And it says that to identify with enough confidence a human being using fingerprint, you need 12 data points. These days there are a lot many more used. If you're using any of the OEMs, they use a lot many more data points, but you need at least 12 data points. And that report, Unique in the Crowd, says that if you use data from mobile operators and the mobile ecosystem, you only need 4 for 95% accuracy. And again, it's not me who's saying, it's that report. And if for the use cases, 50% accuracy is good enough, you only need 2, right? So that highlights the solution that has been existing for the last 30 years. And that's exactly what we are doing. And now we have joined hands. It will be enhanced even further because, as we say in this industry, 1 + 1 is never 2. 1 + 1 is 3. Ideally, 1 + 1 is 11, right? So you add all those, let's say, data sources, and that's the solution.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he's the CTO and not the CFO. Just on the numbers bit.
I don't know, it might work out. I'd also like to touch on the one API. I think that's a critical part of us. The 1 + 1 is 11. One API is really an important part of this joint go-to-market.
Absolutely. And
on that.
this is, thanks, Steve, for highlighting that. That oneness, that singularity is critical as well, right? Because, the fraud is multidimensional, right? So it's not just that, so there are solutions like SIM swap timestamp, call forward checks, mobile to person match, KYC checks, number intelligence, and something known as number verify, we call it safer auth. All are different solutions to tackle the fraud vectors, right? Now, if you think from an enterprise perspective, they need not just one, they need all of these or multiple of these. If now we put a barrier to these enterprises, let's say a bank or a social network or a wallet provider, that you need to integrate multiple times, there are multiple APIs, it doesn't work because it's quite complex and we're putting barriers there. So that's why the way we have designed the service is there is one single API. And it doesn't matter the services that we have now, any of the futures, because the fraud vector will increase. The fraudsters are creative, they're doing business. They will find other ways of doing this thing. And then we will evolve the products and the data source, like what we are doing with you, right? Mm-hmm. We'll be using those data, we'll be using lots of machine learning. But the important thing is, all delivered through one single API, so that we promise to the enterprises and the industry that you are protected today with that API, and tomorrow when we add more intelligence, more data to protect from the future frauds, it's still delivered through that one API. So no more additional integration needed. So that basically is critical for fighting the fraud.
Yeah, yeah. So we've talked a lot about the market. What about some of those use cases? Just double clicking in on a couple of the key use cases. I think it'd be worth covering maybe a few of those and the popular, what you're seeing popular in the market right now.
Yeah, so we in our business, we kind of split the use cases into two. So it's the initial onboarding of a customer, and then what we call in-life, right, or the in-life journey of the customer. I think depending on really the location around the world, the regulatory environment is really the services that are used, but our Safer Auth product combined with the SIM-swap product is probably the most widely used today. We see in a lot of markets your tier one banks and your neobanks adopt these services first. They're always the first movers. But again, over the last kind of 2 years, the verticals have started to open up. So massive in gaming, gambling, and the e-com players are now definitely coming through. And then in life, for us, it's really then back to the SIM swap. I think when you look at the identity products today, SIM swap is by far the most used. However, regulatory changes in places like India, back in February, where the RBI have basically said, look, we don't suggest you use SMS OTP anymore during a financial transaction. The mobile operators are now, a couple of them launched already via ourselves, and one of the other big ones is imminently available as of 12 o'clock last night. So yeah, they're now pushing for the seamless authentication. And in the market, people call it different things. We obviously brand it Safer Auth, it's Seamless Auth, different kind of brands around that. But we're going to start seeing more and more people move away from OTPs. I think we all understand the vulnerability on an OTP, and the Auth or the Seamless Auth basically removes a lot of that vulnerability. Obviously, the original Mobile Connect version, Gautam does apologise constantly because he was the architect of that, and there was some holes. But again, as the fraud has evolved,
right,
they find out these things, right? Yeah. So the newer version that we've taken to market now basically eradicates all of those holes. But yeah, look, I think really the last 6 months the tide has changed. Mobile identity is becoming more of a thing. There's still a lot of education that needs to happen in the market. And again, it's people in the room that can help with that education, and the collaboration thereof, right, I think is really critical.
Yeah. One thing I'll just add on what Mark is saying, is he already hinted, is as an industry, we need to realize that fraud is a humanized problem, right? The reason I'm highlighting that is it's related to identity, not necessarily to security, because security is for machines, right? And as a security industry, as a technology industry, we know how to solve that. All encryption algorithms have been invented, decades back, right? That's what security is, right? But encryption and all those very, complicated cryptographic keys, etc., is not for humans. It's for the machines, right? Fraud impacts humans, right? And Verizon publishes this DBIR, Data Breach Investigation Report, which is very popular in the identity and fraud industry. Year by year, it is highlighting that almost 74% of all these frauds is where the human is involved actively, right? And that gives us a solution as well and a direction, where we remove the human from any of these, let's say, security procedure, and we have a solution. Because the rest we have solved, security we have solved, but we are still involving the human. And that's why we see, as Mark was saying, like Safer Auth, it's called number verify, it's called seamless auth, silent authentication, whatever. It's utilizing, it's not new, it's been there since 1991. It's utilizing the silent cryptographic authentication from the SIM, right? And all we are doing is I call it liberating from the mobile operators to the traditional internet. But the important thing is, it's removing me as a human who is the weakest link from doing anything, right? In that case, the fraudster can send me a very accurate and personal and emotional message, but I am not involved in clicking a link or sending an OTP or typing an OTP or even scanning my biometric face, right? So in that case, I'm making this, this process is making me as a human secure as well. And that's where the industry needs to look into, and that's exactly what we are actually doing with that one single API.
Terrific. So we've got a couple of minutes left. We're right on time. Howard, just to wrap up, and the partnership, what are the takeaways you'd like to leave with the audience here around the work we're doing together?
So I think I'm going to refer back to what David said, right? Key one is trust. So there's a lot of people in the audience, there's a lot of people in the ecosystem. It's okay to trust, right? We should all be on the same side. And as you say, with the few years that we've worked together, it's great to continue that work, understand each other, and share knowledge, right? There's trust that we can share stuff together. I think a lot of new industries tend to keep stuff to their chest, and that's where the fraudsters just keep running away from us, right? So for me, the biggest one is it's good to have a friend, and I think going forward, let's have more friends join us, basically, and kick the fraudsters to the curb. That's really what
Absolutely.
I want to do. Gautam?
Yeah, so, and again, I'm not the CFO, Mark, but it's 1 + 1 = 11 is the important bit, right? Because, if you keep all these ones separate, they still become one, right? They add up arithmetically, but we are not talking about arithmetic here. We are talking about real humans who are getting impacted. So it's beyond mathematics or beyond arithmetic, or it's beyond cryptography as well. And that's where joining hands actually makes it more and more secure. And another very important thing is, I think we talked about earlier, not leaving anyone, as humans, right? Yeah. So inclusivity is absolutely critical, right? And this is why joining hands is even more important. Because that's one specific thing that we do with that one API as well. We don't want to leave any operators behind as well, because operators are at different, let's say, levels. But every operator is important, because if we don't include those operators as partners as well, in that case, the customers, the subscriber, the users of that operators are left behind, right? Another important thing is, this is why this partnership is critical as well. Those, let's say, data that we will be using and delivering the products through that one API are linked to that mobile number. And that's critical, because that mobile number is a proxy to the SIM. And SIM is the most inclusive technology that we use, right? There are other solutions as well, passkeys. Passkeys rely on mobile device, right? So for example, if I can afford an iPhone 16, right, I know that the cryptographic process in that mobile device is secure, right? The businesses that are utilizing that, they are assured as well that it's secure, their users are secure. But what if I cannot afford that iPhone 15 and I use that Jio Bharat phone, which is $10, right? That's not secure that much for obvious reason, due to cost. In that case, it's not inclusive. But if we are using SIM as that cryptographic process and linking all the data related to that SIM and the phone number, in that case, it doesn't matter if that SIM is in that very expensive iPhone 16 or in the low-end Android devices. It provides the exact same protection to the user and the businesses. So that's inclusivity. So that's why this partnership is we are talking the exact same language. It's related to that mobile. And everyone in this room as well, because we are from the same industry. Yeah.
Well said. So with that, we're right on time, and I think from here we head to a coffee break.
Matt will come on stage.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.